Okay, hello, hello, hello to everybody out there listening and watching us currently. How are you doing? Welcome to Melanin and Moonlight. I am one of your co-hosts, Tyrell Collins.
I'm the other Vernon Scott, and welcome everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Hope y'all had a good little break. We're
Yeah,
coming back in full action. You know the things every other week. We're here. Um,
absolutely.
how are you doing, Tyrell? What's new? What's old?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. As the semester is kind of ending for teaching, everybody's just having all these celebrations and things like that. So, looking forward to summer. Weather's starting to change. So, sun is beaming out. So, it's just putting you in a little bit more of a happier mood. So, and, also having some accomplishments come through. I got my certificate for completing my first year of my tenure track and everything. So, that was good. So yeah, doing good, doing good. How about yourself?
Same. Life is good. I'm a little exhausted, but it was a very wondrous weekend this weekend. Spent some time with the Bay. Also had a nice little honoring celebration thing for the Let Your Voice Be Heard. And for those who are new to the podcast, we kind of mentioned an event older in some episodes. The Let Your Voice Be Heard Foundation centers survivors of sexual trauma, and they've been doing a series for male survivors. And last year, sometime, myself and some of the other individuals who were in their, I guess, inaugural event centering males, we came together and made an anthem, and they wrote the anthem out in full this weekend, and that was great. And they also gave us a nice little honorary plaque and whatnot, which was very unexpected, but I feel grateful for the experience. So. It's been a very warm, loving, and cheerful weekend. So, a good start to the week, even though
Mhm.
with my computer decided to try to put a damper on it, but I'm going to be in a good mood. But
Look,
yeah, and
don't we just love technology challenges?
right, it's so good. It's like you're supposed to be here to work consistently, but I know I've been knowing that I need to get a new laptop for some time now, so there's also that, but
Mhm.
it'll get here once this one stopped running. And it's telling me it's getting close to that, so stop trying to wait until when.
Mm,
Just do it
that is the
now.
question. Look, that is the prevailing question.
Oh, gotta love it, gotta love it. But yeah, so let's jump into these
Absolutely,
conversations.
absolutely. So I thought, like the one of the first things we would talk about is something that, of course, obviously being within your field, of course, being in mental health. I think a lot of times, when we talk about the nature of mental health, isolation, bullying, the conversation a lot of times comes up, especially with young people in the high school setting. And I don't think that we talk enough about the kinds of bullying that can happen in collegiate settings.
Mm,
And the fact that, bullying doesn't, just end with high school, and that there are different manifestations of it that come about in college that do lead to aspects of isolation, depression, and all sorts of mental health challenges. And the reason why was thinking about this topic because a student who will remain nameless for privacy purposes at North Carolina Central University recently passed away and via suicide. And I just think that for the nature of what the students in the interviews, from the initial interviews, were saying about how this person, always, seemed like they were smiling, they were, a leader and socially present. I just think that, it always gets us into conversations about somebody who, appears vibrant and, visible and fine, while something deeper may be going, unspoken or unseen. And according to some students, they had spoken about like they did, kind of maybe notice some aspects of, bullying taking place. But in college, there's a lot of factors that, kind of mask that, as far as, oh, just like this person's busy or, they just a little bit withdrawn, things like that. So, I wanted to, just bring up the nature of this conversation about what happens with mental health struggle, particularly with bullying in collegiate settings, and how important it is to continue those conversations from, like a high school setting into a college, kind of dynamic. So, what's kind of like your insight into, just the nature of how important mental health is transitioning from a high school to a more like collegiate setting?
Mhm. Well, before jumping directly into that transition, I do want to say that, it's important for us to remind ourselves that, especially when it comes to the conversation of bullying, that this is why it is important to handle that behavior at a young age, because what people tend to forget is that the child bully becomes an adult bully. It's not like a person just grows out of it and
Mm,
you magically become age 18 and whatever behaviors you used to have just
mm,
evaporates. That's not how life is. That's not how things work. And if we
exactly.
enable and allow these behaviors to continue, then of course it's going to lead into adulthood too.
Mm,
And the transition into from college, I'm sorry, from high school to college is already extremely daunting for a lot of people, especially well, because I just don't want to say all, but in a way it is all. Like many of the young folks, young adults, are coming into a space where they're fully on their own. On their
mhm,
own, they don't have mom and dad our guardian to rely on to help fix some of these problems. The expectation is for them to fix it on their own. And if I don't have the tools and I don't have the support and I don't even know who I'm able to connect with, it makes things feel even more isolating, right?
absolutely.
Because how do we as adults handle a bully in the room? Who am I supposed to contact? And yeah, you could
Mm,
think, oh, let me go to my RA, but if my RA, who is someone who may or may not have the training for this type of thing, they're usually someone who's either a year older than you, um, or maybe a senior in college, what have you. But if they don't have the capabilities of helping you, and then there's no resources geared towards that on campus, then it's not going to help going to a person, right?
exactly.
So that means it's even further isolating knowing that I don't really have a resource. Yes, I can contact campus police and say that these things are happening, but if it's not a crime,
Hmm.
right? And bullying is not
Right.
a crime, in the
No,
adult
unfortunately,
spaces.
yeah.
So it's like it is a continuous problem that people have tend to engage year after year. I even think about the racial discrimination that many black and brown kids experience on college campuses,
Mm,
where luckily there is some support there, but it's not enough. But
right.
where they can highlight, hey, this is the thing that happens. Like I think back to well, this isn't a race-specific issue, but something that I was made aware of, and it's something that went viral where there was a student who would put her urine in her not friends, her roommate's water bottle,
Mm,
or would use her toothbrush to clean the bathroom without
mm,
letting her roommate know that this was going on. Like these are things that are happening to people. Like yes, once the proper people are notified,
mm,
at least in this case with the toothbrush and whatnot, that one actually is a crime.
exactly. Yeah.
So they can do a little bit more to it, but outside of I'm just creating an uncomfortable environment for this person, the most that the school can do is just move them to another room. And that's if the bully is in the same room. If the bully happens to be in the same building, the same residence hall, then sometimes that doesn't mean that the person's going to be removed from the residence hall.
Right.
All it's going to be is like, hey, this is what we can do. Y'all just don't interact with each other and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it's such a, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that because one of the things that was mentioned in the article from, these students as they were talking about this particular student who passed, they were saying when it comes to access to like care for like counselors, and people who are involved with mental health services on their campus. Like remember, like somebody said in the article, like it's only so many of them and so many of us, So when you have delayed kind of like appointments or it's inconsistent or like mental health is hard to access in crisis moments, it is to say like what can you do. And I think another part of it is that even though a lot of college campuses and systems have this aspect of, oh, okay, we have this type of like reporting system, whatever that may be, but we also have to have some visible follow through as well.
Mhm.
Because if because policies innately don't matter if students don't trust them, you
Mhm.
know. So I think that instead of a lot of times where aspects kind of exist in silos, or you only hear about the follow through, on an individual kind of basis, I do think that especially for I think a lot of first year students. And I think that this could be a good thing no matter if you are somebody just transitioning into, from high school into college, or if you are a non-traditional student and you're coming back into college, after a certain amount of years, because that's a, very real thing when you have been working, for years, or, you have a family, you have other responsibilities. So coming back into like a college setting when you may be the older person among, younger people and things like that, I think that, those take forms of bullying as well. And I think that if mental health support services could start to have more of like, like summits, where students can, openly come in via in person, online, and just have like a mass kind of talks about, certain things. To say like, hey, if you see something, say something, and not just like have it like in brochures or pamphlets or sending out emails, because I think as much as we try to have such digital communication because we live in such a digital age, I think when it comes to certain things like this, people need to have that personal connection. They
Mhm.
need to know, okay, who's my point of contact if I see something that, is amiss. And like you were saying, even when it comes to like, RAs, knowing the kind of chain of command, like, oh, I know if I bring this to, my RA, this is like the scope of what they can do. But maybe like the next step is escalating it, to this, and of course you only can work with the things that because of course, like I think with a lot of circumstances, again, when we're talking about mental health, things may, and people, may present, a certain way. But in reality, that's not what it is, especially when you have cases like this and what happened with this student, where a lot of people were saying, yeah, I mean, they were, high energy, socially present, this, and that. And in reality, I think many students perform, happiness,
Mhm.
like they stay active, they stay visible, because I think that they don't want people asking questions about them. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like living in this mentality where, hey, if I'm trying to stay on top of my classes, I'm a student leader, I'm this, I'm that, I have to hold everything together. And mentally and internally, it's like it's a completely different story until, the person, ends up cracking, so.
Mhm. And I think that it is important for I'm going to come back to like the summit idea, which I definitely think that would be great. But it is important for there to be a lot more education surrounding toxic positivity,
Mm,
because like many people are not introduced to what that may be and what that may look like,
mm,
that a person feels as though everything is a-okay, or they may present as that, but internally they're in just shambles. Like it's horrible.
mm,
And just knowing, like, there's a reason why there's the phrase "it is okay to be okay," and this part of that is because of toxic positivity, because a
mm,
person feels like it's not okay to be not okay,
mm,
and they do everything to present as though things are fine when it's not. Um,
mm.
and the thing that keeps coming up in my mind is checking in on the strong friend, right?
Yeah.
Like when situations like this happen, you see people say this over and over and over again. Um, but at the same time, it's like, but why does this have to be the reminder, right? Um, and not to shame any persons for not doing it, of course, but
Mhm.
let's be real. If you find yourself making this statement on an ongoing basis, and I'm going to start asking, are you checking in on yours?
Mhm.
Right? Are you that strong friend, and are you crying out for help here? Right?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of these things play in my mind, especially when it comes to people who attempt and complete suicide, because of course, there's a lot of things that we don't know when it comes to whether or not a person lets us know what's happening with them. Um, but yeah, then now I'm thinking about,
Mhm.
creation of safe space and all this other stuff. But it's a lot of layers to it.
Yeah, and I think also when we talk about safe spaces, I think that a lot of times we need to give a little bit more context about what safe space means because safe
Hmm.
space can still, in some ways, feel exclusionary as
Hmm.
well because if you are obviously navigating multiple intersects of identity, it's like a part of you, may not feel safe to share in this, kind of safe space or, this kind of peer group. So I think a good habit, and I think that this is what I like about the institution that I work at, is that because of the fact it's more of it like a commuter campus, so we don't really there are like emergency housing, like like dorms, like in case students need like emergency housing, but we're more of a commuter campus. And I think one of the good things that we do to try to get students onto campus more is we have all sorts of like activities and games that people can involve themselves in, like going into our library. We have like the crocheting kind of area, for people who just need to like mellow out because they like to crochet. We have like the massage chairs. There's a whole space where there's like puzzle games and stuff like that. This incoming week, because we are moving into our final soon, they have like the thing about like the therapy dogs where people can come, pet, obviously if you're a dog lover you can come, like interact with like a little puppy or a dog, like a dog, and actually meet some friends as well, if you're tend to feel like a little bit more isolated. So I like the fact that in certain avenues, like creating more affinity spaces for people, where no matter what, like you like or involved in, that, oh, okay, if I'm interested in an event like this, oh, I have the potential like to meet, like a fellow dog lover, or, like I have
Hmm.
a potential to, like run into somebody in the library or in another space that loves puzzles, or, if I'm sitting in my chair and I'm crocheting, like, there's always opportunities to, like make connection. And I think in college, speaking from just my own college experience, there were certain people I would run across where it's like, yeah, I'm with you, I got you, but it's like I'm in my own stress in my own world, kind of too. So it's like there's an aspect where, yeah, I'm here for you, but I got to take care of me too, but So I
Hmm.
think that's a whole, just very much balance, to kind of, just to juggle.
Yeah, I agree. And another snippet on the safe space creation, and even understanding, because I think in the conversations of safe spaces, when things become popular and people just jump all up in it, like people automatically think safe space means the freedom to do any and everything
Mhm.
and say whatever it is and not recognize that no, safe space still has boundaries, and the safe space is something that's mutually agreed upon, right?
Mhm.
Because I remember people talking about, oh yeah, whenever I have a safe space, I expect that I can say whatever I want without another person feeling any type of way, and I'm like, no,
Mhm.
that's not.
No, that's not
Because
what that means.
now, yes, that's safe for you, but now we're creating a space that's unsafe for that other person because if you say
Right.
something that offend them, they have the right to say what they feel as well. Now that also means you have to hold space for them to give their feelings,
Exactly.
right? But you know, it is hard to maintain, but it does wonders. And
Mhm.
with the summit idea. Like I mentioned, I do like the idea of having that. Now the main concern is whether or not this is going to be a focus on all levels,
Right.
because it is like possible that either a student organization or even the mental health organization in and of itself has regular programming of that, or wait until the specific
Right.
months to do these certain things. But
Exactly.
when we take things seriously and take a top-down approach, it
Mhm.
makes a lot bigger of a impact. And I think
Yes.
the Me Too movement will be a prime example of how effective that can be. When my college president is talking about, protecting um, individuals who've been assaulted and whatnot, and then my professor is also talking about it. The people in the other administrators, the typical staff workers, also pushing the same information. It's sticks a little bit more fully. Now, the only issue is whenever we jump onto a hot topic and then let it fall, rather than ensuring that, yes, we had it in this moment, but that doesn't mean that it stops. If we're
Mhm.
going to take a steadfast approach towards bullying, that needs to be something that's a conversation across the board.
Right.
It can even be the year of educating the entire campus of what that is.
Mhm.
However, after that year, we're still seeing pamphlets about it. We're still seeing emails about the importance of identifying bullying behavior, finding a safe space, knowing who to contact and notify of when this happens and how they can, work things through other aspects of mental health, how to become a reformed bully versus an active bully, right? All these other things. But,
Yeah, and I think that, having a kind of hands-on approach and, retrospect to the nature of the summit, yeah, it's a good idea to, like have it as like an overall, but I think also going to meet students where they are. And of course, this depends on the type of college you attend, the type of infrastructure that you have. So going to where, meet students where they are is like, hey, if you know that there's a good amount of students that get together like in the dining hall for this hour, do like a pop-up shop,
mm,
where like, hey, let's actually have a dinner conversation, like let's talk, mental health over dinner. And I think that there are a lot of good like access and entry points that you don't necessarily always have to lead with something like, I want to use like the word like heavy, but just
mm,
talking to people about, like what's going on throughout people's day, what warning signs, or what stresses have come up in this week, for people. And just, I think that there's a way to just like get people just to like casually talking. I know one university, they do like their anonymous hour, because they know that some people may not feel comfortable coming online and showing their face. and things like that on like their Zoom platform. So it's like an anonymous hour of like service where like, hey, if you call in, you don't have to be on screen, but of course, if you would like to share something, like you can share through like audio and stuff like that. And yeah, just even training your campus leaders in your administration and with your student organizations, like, let's bring the Greek life people into this conversation. Let's bring our student ambassadors into these conversations, because of course, like somebody said, it when you are trying to take care of an entire campus, an entire community, um there's only so many counselors, and you're definitely outnumbered.
Hmm.
So you need to be able to create a kind of hierarchy, with your student body, to say like, hey, we're going to reach out to these organizations, we're going to reach out to these student leaders and ambassadors to say like, hey, we need y'all to let us know what's going on, and we're going to give even basic tips,
Hmm.
for you all to train, about what to be aware of, so yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I even think about when I was an undergrad, I think our counseling office only had like 4 people, and on college campus there was like what, 3,000 people or more.
Hmm.
Well, there was way more than 3,000, but like um, up to 5,000 people, and they're supposed to service that many
Exactly.
within an 8-hour time frame in emergency situations after hours. And luckily, yes, we do have a counseling program that meets at the campus now, but that wasn't there all the time, right?
Hmm.
And
Right.
even those counselors are not available 24/7. So it
Exactly.
it, it is a important thing to really think about, especially when we think about societal, like public health in general. Like, what
Hmm.
does it mean when we're talking about accessibility to mental health care, and um, how are we not meeting that need? And what are certain things that can assist in bettering that? Because again, 4, 5 people is not sufficient for 5,000.
Exactly.
A small clinic of even 20 professionals is not sufficient for a campus of what, 10,000,
Hmm.
20,000, however many people are going there. Like, we really do need to think about these things, because a full caseload for um let's say someone who's working in community mental health may
Hmm.
look like 30 clients. It may look like 40,
Yeah.
depending on how busy they are. If
Yeah.
I'm at my cap, I cannot take on more, because the administrative work and all that, seeing the clients in and of itself will burn you out.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we really do need to think about that.
Yeah. And I think that in the end, just a painful kind of truth, again, in thinking about this case and so many others, is, someone can be loved, they can be visible, they can be admired, and still feel alone.
Hmm.
And that's just such a painful, we live in a world of contradictions, and unfortunately that's just one of the painful ones that we have to live in. And as I think about the only case of suicide that I've personally have ever been close to was actually in high school.
Hmm.
A student in my during my junior year. We had mix of classes and things like that, and we actually found out on a school field trip that she had taken her life. And immediately what went through our heads was like, no, I mean, she was liked, no obvious signs of anything, and that's what the eerie part about it is that we
Hmm.
always go to like the obvious signs about like, oh, is this person isolated, do they seem like depressed, because to us that is what I think reads as quote unquote normal. But like you're saying, we need to actually turn the conversation to, hey, let's check on our strong friends. Let's actually be aware of warning signs when people are just on the go all the time. And,
Hmm.
they don't really seem to have any type of rest.
Hmm.
and those are the signs that we also need to be looking at, so, it could be a, a dangerous thing. And, hopefully we just continue to, uh, take care of take care of one another as much as possible. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
And like even similar to you, well, mine wasn't necessarily in high school, it was in college, and that in and of itself was when things became a little bit more real because, like you said, those same conversations are happening. Oh, thought
Mhm.
that everything was okay with this person and all that, and no. And the other thing that I also want to stress, especially when it comes to people on the college campus, is recognizing that the person that you see on campus is not always the same person that goes home to their family.
Mhm.
And what does family life mean to them? Like, there's even when I was working in housing, I learned that a lot of the kids who were out and about and living their whole truth were not that kid
Mhm.
at home
Yeah.
because gay doesn't exist at home,
Mhm.
and I have to put myself in a whole closet in a whole box in order for me to just lay rest in somebody else's home for summer, for spring
Mhm.
break, for Christmas break. And the only time that they get to be their authentic self is on the college campus. And even existing in that duality is is it weighs heavy on a person's mental health and their mental well-being.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, yeah, so all we can do is just, hope to, continue to expand resources, take care of each other, and, hopefully things can get better, you know.
Right, right.
Any other things to wrap up for this topic?
Nope, that is it for
No?
me.
Well, moving into our next topic, speaking of danger and, obviously the nature of conversations that need to take place, certain conversations that tend to have gone a little bit overboard is this age that we live in of these AI companion apps. So, obviously, if you're not familiar, of course, these kind of AI companion apps, of course, they let you create essentially virtual companions for conversation, emotional support. A lot of them have like this like interactive role play. I know like you can pay, of course, like with all apps, like if you want to pay for options that you can customize, like avatars and voice interactions and just all these type of things. So it's kind of like, build a boyfriend, build a girlfriend, just all these things. And, the conversation, of course, is not really like all the way new because, of course, like if you are into television or film or, like, especially like if you're a gamer, things like that, this isn't necessarily anything new. Like we all have like our favorite like video character game person
Hmm.
where it's like we would like, oh my God, like if they were real, like oh my God, we'll be in love, and just all these things. But I think because we've entered into such an age where AI is, becoming more and more rapid, that when you look at these like AI companion apps like SoulGen and Replica and Animate AI and Dream Gene, and where you can choose these avatar features, their skin color, ethnicity, height, how you want their voice to sound. And when you look at these commercials, I mean, like, if you did not know that you were looking at an AI commercial on like firsthand, you would be like, okay, like, this is like, a real person, you know. But yeah, it's just, for one, I see where the initial appeal of it comes from for many reasons because I think that AI companions tap directly into I think people's emotional needs, but I do think that where that kind of aspect becomes dangerous is because people are really taking it to heart and not for like fun, as I think it was originally meant to be. And so now people are quietly really replacing human interaction with this kind of perfect partner illusion that they can create for themselves. And as we know, real humans, we are far from anything but perfect. So it's allowing your brain to really rewire expectations that you have, especially in romantic, kind of connections. So just what, like what your thoughts are about, living in a time where we have like these AI companionship, type of
Hmm.
apps.
I hate it for us. I, the best way of putting it is that I genuinely hate it for us because on some level, yes, I get it that you can form a deep connection with a figment of your imagination, meaning the
Mhm.
AI, because you're the one that's crafting it, you're the one that's developing, you're the one that's really, making it
Mhm.
fit your needs, which is
Right.
cool, which is great. Love that for you. But it does not replace what real human connection can bring us. And
Mhm.
that's the important thing that the reason why many people are feeling lonelier and lonelier and lonelier is because we're trying to find connections with things that just do not last, that are just not real, the things that do not have nuance with them.
Mhm.
Like, yes. I might not want to expose a certain part of myself because in doing so means that I lose certain friends.
Mhm.
Cool. I understand that mentality. I get where that's coming from. But the other thing is that it does not mean that there's not a person out there that's willing to overlook that. It
Exactly.
doesn't mean that you cannot find community with those people who like something similar to you.
Mhm.
Like, I hate to put it this way, the Mad Hatters and their foolishness that they got going on. A lot of them came into that space because they were looking for genuine connection because, oh, this person called me a racist, and because I was called a racist, and all my other friends started to distance themselves from me, and now I'm feeling alone.
Mhm.
Now, the problem is probably because you're a racist, which you can work on that. You could get over that, right?
Right.
But rather than seeing the humanity in others, we use that as a tool to further demean ourselves, and now we have to connect or feel connected with people who's on that same level, but at the end of the day, we're not looking for real deep connections. We're looking for validation,
Mhm.
right? And because we're looking for validation, we think that because this thing or this AI or this community that I'm now in
Mhm.
is making me feel good, it has to be the right thing. But
Right.
no, the reason why you still feel empty inside, the reason why, and this is outside of that community, of course, the reason why you still feel empty inside, the reason why you still feel lonely is because that validation does not replace what it
Mhm.
means or what it is like to be in relation to someone else. It's
Exactly.
also part of the reason why we have a lot of people in unhappy marriages because we got into this relationship because it made me feel good and not that it felt right for me to be there.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's where it's kind of like where I kind of see it as like, because a lot of times I think when we talk about, especially like AI, we always want to just concentrate on AI being the problem. But
Hmm.
in retrospect, I mean, we have always had aspects of AI around. And the thing is, to me, AI is essentially not the problem. It's really about the loneliness that people feel, and it's about the isolation, right? So even as I was thinking about as we were coming on to talk for today, I was like, let me like just jot down some reasons. Like if I was thinking like if I wanted to have like an AI part, like an AI partner, what would be like the benefits of just having like an AI partner? And I came up with just like I think I came up with like four reasons why like okay, yeah, I could see this and like other reasons why it's like, no, this is absolutely not. And so my four reasons were that, of course, as we live in a age of like, ghosting and all this type stuff, obviously, if I have an AI companion, there is no like, no, I'm busy, or, like, emotional inconsistency, or, just living in a culture where, people often feel like they're disposable,
Mm,
because of the rapid rate of monetary, not monetary, but minuscule, kind of connections. again, the nature of how they build these apps to be very hyper in tune with you. Like, so you can build your AI companion to learn your preferences, affirm your feelings, respond in ways that, you feel are emotionally intelligent, even though it's simulated, you know.
Hmm.
I thought about, okay, well, obviously with us living in rampant worlds of, again, nature of STIs, things like that, you remove the actual in-person sexual risk, so you don't have any type of rejection or hangover or awkward silences when you're trying to, you know, uh, be intimate, and also I think for identity exploration, right? So for many people who may be new to dating or they're trying to maybe get back into dating or just you feel like you're emotionally on another plane than most people or whatever that is.
Hmm.
It can be a safe space that you feel that again, it kind of rewires your brain to make you feel seen in ways, even though it's simulated. And then, so as I thought about those reasons, I thought about, okay, this is absolutely bonkers, in the retrospect. And again, I think because of the fact that AI partners are designed to please you, they are not,
Hmm.
obviously, they are not real. But I think it drives deeper than that because as you're talking about something that is AI, it also has very avoidance patterns because it's a simulator, it's a computer. So if you're someone that is already struggling with vulnerability, rejection, social anxiety, now AI is becoming that comfortable escape hatch. And the
Hmm.
more you use it, the harder real connections actually feel, you know. And same thing as, I brought up with the whole intimacy thing, right? AI, it gives you that control, that affirmation, things like that. But real relationships, as you pointed out, right, they are going to take compromise. You have to be accountable. You have to be patient because that is what it means to be a human, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I just, I was coming up with, because I was really trying to think about for people who, pay or they create themselves these AI companions, like really trying to understand and see what is the appeal of it. And I think that the trend is less about, again, the technology and more about the crisis of connection.
Hmm.
Many people don't feel chosen or seen. And then now, oh, all I need to do is just, either pay this little money or, do whatever. And now I have this AI companion person telling me I will always choose you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very sad thing when you really think about it. And I hate it for many who feel like that is the resource. Like I personally enjoy some delayed gratification. Like, that was the age that we lived in before the internet came up. It was like, here's everything rapid for you. We had to wait for a lot of things. And I've learned over the years that I feel blessed and privileged to have that experience, right? To know that some things genuinely are worth waiting for, that just having it at your fingertips is not that great. And another thing is that I wish more people would recognize that though AI can provide factual information, but not all of it is facts. And
No.
not all of it is fits whatever context that
Mhm.
you're living in. Like again, it feels good to have someone to validate something that you're already feeling internally. But is that same thing going to be there to hold you the way that you really need it?
Exactly.
And and even when it comes to having a partner, sometimes your partner may fail. And guess what? That's okay.
Mhm.
It's that attempt of trying to console me or to comfort me in a moment where you may not even know what to do and I don't know what to do either. That means something. That means you
Mhm.
genuinely cared enough about me to do something. to help me feel good, right? Versus
Exactly.
I put in this prompt or I told you exactly what's going on and you responded the way that I may not have known at the top of my head, but it seems so perfect to me because I get to read that back and it seems like it was right.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And, for me, as somebody who I'm always trying to, trying to strike like some sort of like middle ground or see if like there's some compromise or something that could be looked at from, okay, we can look at this from a negative and positive sort of standpoint. So I was thinking like, what should, if I had to think about like a dream, not a dream scenario, but like what should be done about, for people who are using AI, these AI companion apps and stuff like that for real connection. And, I was thinking like, okay, maybe we can again establish some happy medium, not to ban it, not to shame it, or not to say like, oh, it never works. But again, if you're going to use something, use it with intentional use. So if you're going to use it, hey, there's nothing wrong with like pulling up your little AI companion, like if you wanted to practice certain communication,
Mm,
because, and it's not to say that this even replaces like going to like, therapy or, something like that, but it's not, but it is to say like all the times you may not have access, obviously, to your therapist in a moment,
hmm
or, a counselor or a coach. So it's kind of like, hey, if you can have like a tough conversation or a tricky conversation coming up, it's like, okay, let me pull up my little AI companion and see how to navigate this, right? So like using something as like, a tool, not as a replacement.
hmm
Something, check in with yourself. If you find that you're actually talking to your AI companion more than you are talking to actual people, maybe we need to scale back a little bit. you know
Exactly.
Maybe you only talk to your AI companion maybe once a week, or
Exactly.
something like that, I don't know. And it's but I do. And I think this conversation really was so poignant because I don't know if you've ever watched the show, but I've actually binged some episodes of the show Black Mirror.
hmm
Yeah, because I had never watched Black Mirror before. And like one of the most recent episodes in season 7, even though it's not technically AI, but with Issa Rae. I mean, that episode, like, oh my God, my heart was finna come out because, I mean, not to spoil the episode or anything, but it's kind of like dealing with a makeshift world about real feelings or what you perceive to be real feelings developing for somebody that's not real, for like a
hmm
character that's existing in a film and not real.
hmm
So it's very easy to do. And I think, no, we have all types of fun conversations about like, oh, who's my TV or my movie husband or wife or, like things like that. But I do think for people who do feel that those senses of loneliness and isolation where they don't connect with real people,
hmm
and it's safe for them to escape into worlds of video games or televisions or movies, and as someone who obviously like I love TV and movies, and so that's the thing, like I'm not going to say I teeter that line, but in a certain lens I can see why people fall,
hmm
prey to it, so
Yeah. And the stress what you said a little bit earlier about, using AI as a tool, and that's what it's supposed to be. It is
mm,
supposed to be a tool for us to use, not like I said, not a replacement.
mm,
Like if you needed to cope with something, feel free, right?
mm,
I just want someone to tell me that I was right about this. Let me go ahead and send it over to the chat GPT or whatever companion that you decide that you want to use.
mm,
And as I do that, I get my validation. Now let's have the real conversation with this person that I actually care about. That's real and right here because I received the validation that I wanted. I got that nice little hit of endorphins or dopamine. Now let's have the conversation. I could be wrong in what I said, and now let's sit in that, right? Like,
mm,
do whatever it is to help you process your way through it, but still also develop that relationship with that person that's in front of you. Like
Right.
even with some of my clients who tend to go to the chat GPT for whatever
Mhm.
reason. I keep telling them to stop doing that. But I don't discourage it. Well, on some level, I do discourage it because the water. But I also understand that if we're going to use it for minimal use, let's use it for as minimal use as possible. But if that's something that helps you with journaling and processing your thoughts, I'm not going to tell you not to do it,
Mhm.
right? Whatever you process your way through, and then we come into the session, let's talk about it, right? I do encourage them not to buy in to what the the AI tells them because it may not be fitting. Like I
Mhm.
may go to the AI companion because I know they're starting to do a lot more therapy-based ones too. Which all people listen to me now, don't do it.
Mhm.
But they'll um have like, oh, this is what I'm feeling. I think it's this, blah, 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 blah. The AI is not a professional. It's
Mhm.
going to say or frame everything as though what you're saying is 100% correct.
Correct. Yeah.
So you come back to me, come back to your therapist, come back to a friend and just be like, well, clearly I have this, that, and the third, or this is what's going on with me and blah, 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 blah. We're
Mhm.
going to be like, no.
Yes, and that's the thing that people don't understand. Because again, AI works like a prompt. So even if you type something into it, AI cannot capture the total spectrum of your emotional state. So it's like only one little thing needs to be altered in this situation for it to automatic to compute something different or what have you. So it's like you're saying, when you are going to see professionals, when you are talking with family and friends, you're talking with actual people who can
hmm
actually empathize or sympathize, with you. That is because it's like all it takes is for that minute detail to change the way that a professional would tell you to go about something, or like a
hmm
loved one would tell you to go about something or suggest something. So yeah, it's like people, come on, let's try to get a grip. I know it's
Yes, let's
hard. I know it can be hard, but let's try to get a grip.
gather them up.
Yes. Well, speaking of getting a grip, one of our last topics we wanted to transition into for for today is the grip that people seem to sometimes feel like they can hold over you in today's dating culture, depending on the type of date that you have. So, there was an interesting, kind of Instagram video on a platform that came up that was talking about, regardless of, I think that this, of course, this spans across gender, sexuality, or anything like that, where if you are having a luxury or, like high price date, such as like somebody is inviting you on vacation for like a weekend or, what have you, or even not necessarily in vacation, maybe it's like, high class fancy dinner or it's an upscale type of something where somebody has clearly spent a good amount of money to either facilitate for you both or invited you somewhere. And so this kind of dating culture expectation that some people that may actually, I will say a lot of people have, not everybody does,
Mhm.
of course, but having certain kinds of expectations that because this person has facilitated this, that they are inclined to your body. So the whole nature of this conversation of dating as a kind of currency mindset, and do you owe certain expectations of sex depending on the type of date that has occurred. So just initially just getting into like your initial thoughts about dating as currency.
This is why I will forever tell people not to enter into any transactional relationship with any persons.
Mhm.
Most definitely when we thinking about romance, right?
Mhm.
Like if if we are putting in the ether, let's say that, okay, you're expected to pay for my dinner.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So
Mhm.
if I'm going to pay for your dinner, what is my reward here?
Exactly.
What do I gain?
Mhm.
Because if it's just being able to spend time with you, then now I'm paying for your time. And if I don't like the time, or what I invested in that, I'm going to be looking for a return on my investment. Because
Mhm.
if we're going to look at things in a transactional way, that's the main thing that people are looking for is what is my ROI. And if I'm not getting a sufficient ROI, I'm going to want something more.
Mhm.
Or I will need to have some kind of indicator where this is going to go. Because if this investment is not leading to anything or anywhere that I feel like will benefit me at the end of the day, then why do I need to be here? Right. And
Mhm.
also a firm believer, don't put in any money that you don't feel comfortable with
Exactly.
losing. If you're the type of person who's like, I'm going to take care of whoever I'm going out on a date with on the first date and all this other stuff, that's great. But if that's going to be you, there's no expectation of any type of reward.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, that's not the society that we live
Yeah, yeah.
in.
I think that the whole like dating as currency kind of thing. I think it's often felt a lot of times because it's not said out loud. Because I think when it's said out loud, like, oh yeah, so like we didn't have this expensive dinner, like you giving it up. Like, I think, that will get, I think immediately that gets people cussed out and, definitely, because it's like,
Hmm.
I think it's like that out loud aspect of you feeling entitled to me or to my body. And so I think a lot of times in a lot of spaces, especially dating spaces, where you want to keep things a little bit undercover and coy just to feel things out. So I do think a lot of times it's like an unspoken script. Like you say, it's kind of
Hmm.
like, hey, I spend a lot on you. I should get something back. Hey, I flew you out. That means something. I paid for everything. So it's like when we get, when are we getting to it? So as you said, time becomes transactional to a lot of people. Any type of affection now becomes like an exchange for something. And ultimately, sex is a privilege, kind of reward, And I
Hmm.
think that the way that that expectation I think still exists even in today's dating culture is because again when we think about patriarchy and especially uh uh kind of older ideas about masculinity. Men especially are often, I think, socialized to, again, provide financially, like lead a date, earn, like, and so you're doing all of this to kind of earn this kind of
Hmm.
sexual access to a person. So that is very much internalized in a lot of spaces. It's like, okay, yeah, if I did my
Hmm.
part, again, like you say, what's my return on this? What's my
Because like
return on this?
in all honesty, if we make things transactional, I like to lean into my petty because my first thing I'm going to ask you, like, okay, so since I'm paying for your time and we're spending mutual time, I need to know exactly how much your time is worth, and I'll match that according to how much my time is full rate. We're not
Mhm.
doing no sliding scale. We're not doing pro bono because let's see what whose time needs to be managed
Exactly.
properly here. Because if your rate per hour is cheaper than what a person pays me for my time, you owe me money because we're not doing this. We're not.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that especially because we live in a cult and especially with the hookup culture that, becomes prevalent today, like
Hmm.
there is this very gray space when it comes to dating where it's like, okay, this isn't fully romantic, it's not fully casual. So sometimes, obviously, a lot of times people will use money or experiences to signal that kind of, seriousness or to fast track, like, okay, so we in this kind of situationship or like this friends with benefit kind of thing so we can just fast track the intimacy
Hmm.
respect and yeah, and I just think even when it comes to like these and especially when it comes to like high cost dates, so when we are talking about outings and luxury and trips, now innately, again, and this spans across genders and across, relationship orientations. Now when we get into very high cost things, now we're always going to have some type of imbalance here, because
Hmm.
whoever has the money is going to control the control the power and the rate of things. So again, those kind of boundaries get crossed. And speaking from like the other side of the perspective, because I think in that Instagram clip that, we both uh, saw, it was brought up a very interesting thing about when if you are a person that you may do something, like have sex with somebody like out of guilt or out of this again, this kind of, as you said, like transactional framing. So it is to say, like, I think, and I wonder like how many people, I would love to like see like a survey of this, like how many people have actually like had sex with someone because of like you either not, and I wouldn't say felt pressure as in like this person was just like all up on you,
Hmm.
like about to force, really force you into something. But like how many people have actually had sex with somebody like out of like a guilt trip? Or
Hmm. Or
like,
obligation.
like you kind of felt like, yeah, I did it because they did this, they paid for that, and not really feeling like, I really wasn't, into it.
It's a large number of people. I will say that. And like my thing, look, if the pussy or penis is for sale, just it's okay. Like I'm not
Right.
judging. Do your
Yeah.
thing. Like it's fine. But like there's a large number of people who would feel obligated to engage in sex with the person because they spent a certain amount of money. Now, and this is why I will always lean back into the realm of communication, because
Mhm.
if we're not communicating expectations and I don't meet those expectations of yours, that
Mhm.
is not a me problem. At the end of the
Mhm.
day, it's not a me
Exactly.
problem because you wanted something in this exchange that was not laid onto the table for me to fully understand. What I was told was, hey, I'm going to pay for this vacation for you. We're going to have a good time. And I was like, bet. So I
Mhm.
ain't bring with me the get sexy panties. I didn't bring with
Mhm.
me the condoms for me. I didn't bring none of the things
None of that.
that will tell me that we are going to be getting freaky at all.
Mhm.
And again, if I so decide that while there, okay, let me go to the store get this little thing over here so I could do a little freaky, freaky, freaky.
Mhm.
That's because I want to do it, not
Right.
because I had this obligation to engage in this
Mhm.
um, behavior because you felt like you were owed that. Like,
Exactly.
and even in that conversation, if you're engaging with somebody who feels like they're entitled to your body,
Mhm.
that in of itself means that there's a consent thing going on here, and
Mhm.
that there's a red flag, and we need to go ahead and see it quick.
Exactly. And I really enjoy like this other, kind of Instagram clip I ran across where this husband, he was talking about especially like how men especially need to get more in tuned about various kinds of intimacy that they can enjoy, because like he was saying, like from his perspective, him and his wife, he had to learn that if she wants to be touched, if she wants to be kissed, like how he was like, they were both bringing up like separately, like, yeah, no, like there's just times where like she just wants to make out, like, with her husband, like, and it doesn't need to lead to sex. Or like sometimes she's like saying, I'm not even wanting sex, but as a person who loves to kiss, who loves to make out, like she
Mhm.
wants that physical connection, that bond, and him having to understand that for the way that she loves and the way that she shows affection, that they had to get over those like assumption, that he had to get over like those assumption aspects where he felt like at the beginning of the relationship, like, oh, if she's touching me, she's wanting to be all over me and things like that, that automatically has to lead to sex. So it's kind
Mhm.
of like rewiring his brain. It's like, well, no, if she's touching me, she wants to be all over me. Like there are various forms of intimacy that we can share that don't have to, lead to sex. And I think that that is that assumption thing is how I think like people think about like that, those like vacation trips, right? It's
Hmm.
implied that, oh, okay, if we're vacationing together, then that means like, hey, we're extending like our time together, like we're sharing space, no matter if that's a room or a bed, we're exchanging like this romantic or sexual energy. So there's an assumption of intimacy,
Hmm.
and so and like you say, it's really about having that conversation. So I know a lot of people have ultimately said when it comes to a topic like this, they're like, I'm not even going to put myself into a position where I feel like something can be misread. So it's kind of like to say, like, because even if I'm thinking in my mind, this is for other people, they're like thinking in my mind, they like, as I saw like the comments and stuff from these various videos, they're like, listen, I'm not about to up here and play myself. I kind of read into like if I'm going away with somebody and things like that, I'm not about to go away with somebody that I don't at least feel an intimate kind of, attraction to. So I don't want them to misconceive, or misperceive a situation. So a lot of people is like, I'm not even going to accept going on vacation or going on a trip without having that kind of conversation. Like you say, not having that kind of conversation at first, or even if I felt like that person felt like that, I would kind of just decline
Hmm.
because I can already tell that they feel like this may mean something more. So I'm not even going to put myself into that kind of space.
I'm with you. Definitely when you're right. I'm thinking about myself in this situation as well. Like if I'm dating someone and so far that we've been dating, they're just like, money ain't nothing for me, blah, 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 blah. I go here, go there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool, whatever. I know money is a little bit something for me. That's cool,
Mhm.
whatever. Because I got real bills and my bills be hitting harder than what may be going on your life.
Exactly.
Do you? And if you just like, hey, I got this trip that I got going on, you want to go? It's going to be like a week, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to make the time work. I'm thinking. Okay, cool. Since money ain't the thing for you, you already had this thing planned. Might as well
Might
join.
as well. Okay.
And you come out of nowhere like, so what that booty do?
Oh,
Ooh,
wait a minute.
whoa, wait a second here. You told
Go back on the
me,
plate.
you told me money was nothing, and I just thought that you just spent some money on the trip, and this was just a flyby thing. Like, hold up now.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
flag on the play.
Exactly. And even with and I have that mentality as well, not just even with sexual encounters, but like even when it comes to like because just for audience purposes, people who know me personally, people know I don't drive. So it's kind of like if I'm going somewhere, either I'm going to put myself into a state of mind if I'm getting a ride from someone, I know that pretty much I'm on their time because I rode with them. However, I always think about worst case scenarios. I don't know if something gonna happen. Somebody gonna have an altercation. Somebody gonna flip out. My mind automatically goes to a million different scenarios that can happen. So a lot of times, I will not even usually go somewhere unless I know I have at least one good, at least a good amount of like what 20, 25, $30 in case I need to Uber
Mhm.
my ass home. So because
Listen,
like I'm not about to go somewhere with somebody and I end up stranded somewhere.
listen.
So no,
And
that's
if
not
I'm
gonna
going to be out on the town, my phone is charged. I don't.
happen.
We're we're not going anywhere.
No,
No,
no, this
no.
ain't gonna happen.
And the
No.
backup phone is with me too because I keep a larger charge. We're not playing these
Exactly.
games.
Exactly. Where is my power back? Like, no, no, this is not
No.
happening. But I can't, but obviously, I think a lot of us have even had disappointing moments where, again, we've had that assumption or I wouldn't say expectation, but like disappointment and like, okay, I was in the mood for something to happen. It didn't. Like I had that experience actually just recently. Like I met
Same.
somebody who I had met online. This was our first time meeting. We had flirted a little bit in conversation in the past, but since we had reconnected back, there was nothing, that was like that. Invited him out to a movie, things like that. And I wasn't like expecting like sex or anything like that. But I'm a affectionate, kind of person. I love touch. So, I love hand holding. I love kisses, soft touch, and things like that. So I was hoping for hoping
Mm,
for that, even just the slightest, but he didn't really seem interested. So obviously I didn't push, or anything like that. So I think there's a difference between, of course, entitlement, where it's like, oh, okay, I paid for this, so I should, have this
hmm
from you, versus like, oh, okay, this is a desire and hope I have to say, like, hey, I invested in this experience and, kind of hope it leads to something deeper. But, like, if it doesn't, just keep optimism on the table.
No, I get it. Like s
Optimism.
similar to you, I had a recent experience myself,
Mm,
and it wasn't like in a way it was like this would be something. This is something I really want to do. It'd be fun, blah blah blah. And I was like, hey, you want to do this? And they're like, no. And I was like, okay, whatever. All right, fine. You know, and
mm,
keep it moving. And it's like. I feel like it helps so much more, when people do not feel entitled for a certain reaction to. But it's like, okay, cool. That's not a part of the plans. What about this? Yeah,
right.
that's fine. And then that's cool.
And yeah,
Great. And keep it moving. Right? Or maybe just keep me in the loop if mine changes.
yeah. And as a message, I think and I think both of us could get, obviously co-sign this message. For those people who are listening and watching us, who, like, if you're ever in a situation where you may feel not, again, not even outwardly pressure, but like internal versus external, where you feel like, hey, they spent this money on me, or, I don't want to seem ungrateful, or, this is just what people do. Let us co-sign and say, like, no, it is not. Nobody is ever obligated to the nature of your body. Our
Hmm
bodies are the one of the most sacred, is like a sacred temple. It's one of the most sacred things that we have. And you should never feel obligated to give somebody your body, just because they spent, a certain amount of stuff, money, or they created this experience, or, whatever. I do not believe in the nature of social obligations.
Listen, same, same.
No, no. So yeah, I just, I think, in going into any situation, you should always have clarity. And and again, I think clarity is one of the sexiest things that, can be. And to me, clarity is sexier than assumption. So,
Hmm
it's kind of like, listen, let's just put it on the table, like, listen, what is this kind of, between us? So we, is this just a trip? Is this just vibe? Which I don't necessarily like the term vibes, but I know that's what people use. But is it just vibes? Are we looking at something romantic, something physical? Just let me know.
Yeah, don't tell me that you invited me on this long ass vacation is just for vibes because guess what? If we're gonna vibe out, my vibe don't be leaning in certain directions most of the time.
Exactly,
I'm having a
exactly.
good time.
Look, that's one of them. What's that? Kevin Hart said it. Think like, man, that's like, no, look, I need you to put me in my onesie. Like, I just need to be held.
Because a vacation for me, it might not be the same vacation for you because I'm looking for sleep. I'm looking for good
Exactly.
food. I'm looking for a
Exactly.
drink every now and again. And then I'm looking for more sleep because
Hmm. Exactly. So, no. No. But yeah, so yeah, just an all message. Like, people are not entitled to you, Now, of course, it's always fun to think about, like, because I do have the one of them attitudes where it's like, um, like, oh, hypothetical question, if somebody, paid X amount of money, if you feel like you owe them something. And of course, like, as we've been talking about, the immediate answer is absolutely not. But then it's kind of like the other part of me is like, wait a minute, how much money we talking?
but for real, because listen, if you just drop the mill in my bank account,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I will feel obligated, but I will feel happy to
Mm,
give you something.
yeah, that's one of them. Like, I may be willing to take one for the team here.
Listen, like, what am I getting out of this? That? Okay, okay. Look, have a freelance hoe at all times.
Yeah,
Like,
and it kind of reminds me of like this documentary, like I was seeing some time ago, where they were talking about like the ancient, like, like Egyptian culture and stuff like that, about like having like male concubines. Like, a lot of like royal, hierarchy and royalty people had like male concubines, And I was kind of looking at the documentary and I was kind of like, the male concubines, like they actually get like certain privileges. Like they don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to, they get to live like a little bit more, like a little bit greater life. And my thing was like, well, I wouldn't want to be like the main concubine because they got to go through way too much. It's like when you're not with your when you're not with the wife or the partner, you coming to me every day. No, no, see, I can't deal with all that. I could be like the seventh concubine. Like, you come see me maybe every third Tuesday or something,
Listen,
like, I ain't got time to be being somebody's main something, so I'm just like, I can't, but it's kind of like asking that fundamental question, like back in the day, could I have been a concubine?
I would have been happily over there like, you had me at no taxes.
Exactly, exactly. That was my main thing. It's kind of like, wait a minute, I don't have to pay taxes. Let's
You
think
said I
about
was cute. You're kind of cute too. Hey, I'll be over here again. Call me Scissor.
it. Exactly,
I'll have you on the weekends, baby. Like, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Monday through Friday,
exactly.
I do not exist.
Mhm.
Are you back? Oh, did you bring anything? Oh, you brought me some chicken. Oh, thank you, boo.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Wonderful. Exactly.
You
I
had a
feel like the most
great.
special person in the world right now.
Okay. Look at you coming to see me today. Oh my God. As though it wasn't playing. Oh my God. Hey, big head.
Oh, but
Oh
that's
God.
just too much. But yeah, anything else to get at for today?
No, that is it for me. How about you?
No, that is it for me as well.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be it for today's episode, everybody. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to Melanin and Moonlight, your late night space for deep, thought-provoking conversations about sex, culture, and the well-being of the Black community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast to keep the conversations going. Until next time, keep the vibes flowing and your mind open. Bye.
Bye.
I was like, what?